What's up, YouTube? Element here. I am on my way to Flips right now. We are going to see Star Wars. And I'm super pumped. I'll see you after. What up, YouTube fam? We are going to see Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah, we're gonna be so dope. We're gonna be so dope.
We're gonna be so dope.
We're gonna
enjoy
dope.
it. It's gonna be exciting. We'll catch you later. Who do you think is Rey's parents?
Kenobi?
That's a good answer.
Oh, let's just go see it.
All right. Yo guys, we are here at the theater. You can see the parking lot behind us. We are about to go in.
We're catching a late night showing just so that we have the theater to ourselves.
It's not gonna be empty, bro. It's not gonna be empty.
But it's last minute decision, reserved seating. It's gonna be dope.
You gotta see it in IMAX, man. We'll see you after. What up, guys? We just got here early, so we're taking in some of that Blue Hope. It's a nice little drink that they got here at the bar at AMC.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That one right there, Revenge of the Sith.
That's a
A
tequila.
little bit too heavy. A little bit too heavy on that one. All right, guys, we're doing our last minute predictions, and I'm gonna say that Rey is a Kenobi. That was my original theory. That was the theory video that hit big with me.
I say Palpatine.
Palpatine. That doesn't make sense. We'll see you after the movie. Bye. So as you just saw, we went through a lot of shenanigans there. We put on some sketch, if you will. We also went through the whole theater experience, short of dressing up in Jedi robes and cosplaying into theater.
We were just so excited. I mean, I spent the majority of the day just listening to people about how much they loved the movie, and we weren't planning to watch it until later on.
No, this guy was gonna make me wait until Sunday to see this movie, and I just couldn't.
Yeah, and on my way home, I was like, let's just go see it, man.
And I was thrilled. I was like, thank God.
And we caught like the last showing on a Friday night.
Yes.
I went home and found my kids' lightsabers from the last movie, and we had some fun with it.
It was pretty fun.
We went for the whole entire experience. As you saw, we even drank some Blue Hope. The Force, Star Wars.
Which tasted a lot more like Gatorade than it did vodka.
The official Star Wars alcoholic beverage.
But you know what? It makes sense that the Blue Hope, the Jedi drink, is a little bit soft.
Yes.
And so we probably should have gotten the Sith drink because that looked, it had tequila in it.
That one
so
was with tequila, and I don't think I'd want to go into watching Star Wars.
I think that's why it was as soft as it was. They don't really want people hammered going into movies. Let me just kind of preface this, okay? So in my initial review that you saw me post on my channel, if you follow me at all, I thought the movie was fantastic. I thought it was amazing. And I rank it up there possibly behind Empire Strikes Back because there was a lot at stake, and the narrative surrounding all of the branching stories that we saw in the movie kept me engaged. I was present, and as I mentioned in my review, I didn't need a popcorn for the second half of the movie. I was just like totally in and present and just wanting to see what happened next. And I didn't really feel like I needed to just like kind of sit back and munch on some popcorn waiting for the next thing to happen. With that said, there are a couple of flaws that I haven't really gotten to, primarily because my first initial review was addressing the fact that a lot of people think that Rey's parents were revealed. I didn't think so. And if you want to see what I thought about that, you can always go to my review. If you haven't seen it, it's on my channel. I'll put a link in the description below. And let's go into our review, or this particularly Flip's outlook or perspective.
Well, I mean, as you had said, that for a movie that's more than 2 hours, I typically would like to, have a first half of munchies and then have a second half of munchies because of the long runtime. And I know you weren't looking for munchies at the second half, but I certainly was. That is one of the gripes that I had with this movie. It's a really long runtime. It's over 2 hours, and I have to admit there was a couple of moments in the second half or the second act where I wished I had a bucket of popcorn because some of the things, the pacing of the movie is not something that I particularly enjoy. Some of these movies that have long run times, sometimes they feel the need to have such a robust story, a robust film to fill in so much story that I feel like it hurts the movie more than anything else. In my opinion, and some people may agree or disagree with it, but the Finn and Rose story arc was just contrived. Like, I didn't feel like they needed that at all.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I'm going to have to disagree with, just because it kind of pushed the narrative forward on the front of Poe Dameron's character development when it comes to him kind of taking the reins from General Leia and his interactions with Commander Holdo or Admiral Holdo. So yeah, it was important in my eyes, and that's something I disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just like I felt like they didn't need that. I felt like at the end, when Finn was ready to sacrifice himself, I was like, okay, cool. I understand why this story arc is in here, because he's gonna do something heroic. And then it gets ruined. It gets ruined with her saving him, and then this corny scene happens where that's how we win. That's how we win, by saving the people we love. And then they have this really unauthentic kiss. And then that was just like one of those things in this movie that just kind of made me kind of irk a little bit.
Okay, so the kiss, I thought it was a little bit cheesy as well, but that scene played out exactly the way I thought it was going to play out, and it's because
you thought she was going to come in and save him.
Yes, I thought somebody was going to save him. Actually, I thought Luke was going to save him at first, but right. I was glad that someone did, because one of the things that makes the Rebel Alliance or the Resistance stand out from the Empire is that they don't need to go kamikaze to win battles, and like Finn was trying to be the hero, so to speak, and the way that Rose came in and saved him and said, we don't do it like that, we win with hope and all of this good stuff. It's echoing a lot of the things that the Rebel Alliance or the Resistance fights for, and they don't like to lose people for the sake of, winning a battle. And we don't even know if Finn sacrificing himself would have made a difference. He might have just burned up in front of the battering ram laser or whatever, and it wouldn't have made any difference, and they would have lost Finn. So that's my take on that one.
Okay. And another thing that really irked me about watching this movie was Captain Phasma. I just feel like there wasn't enough of Captain Phasma in The Force Awakens or in The Last Jedi for me to care about her fight with Finn. Like, yes, it was an amazing fight scene. Yes, it was really well choreographed, and there was a lot of epic moments during that fight scene, but there wasn't enough of her character that would make me care about her losing, or make me care about the two of them, where I would put myself in a place where I'm invested in Finn's character to beat her, because I don't know enough about her. Like, she showed up for 10 minutes in The Force Awakens and 10 minutes in The Last Jedi, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to care whether she loses or wins. So that was kind of like a contrived moment for me.
So in my perspective, so obviously I understand where you're coming from, and I can see how you can have those feelings, but and this is probably a general mistake that a lot of filmmakers make, is because Captain Phasma's character has been fleshed out in the novelization before The Awakening, and we see how much of a relationship she has with FN 2187 or Finn, and you're right, her presence in The Force Awakens was shoddy, and I thought when I first saw it, it was a complete waste of a good character. And leading up to, or fast forwarding to The Last Jedi, I thought it was great that they used her again to kind of have this reckoning with Finn, her old student, so to speak.
For those that are uninitiated, or for somebody like me who's not deep into the canon, not deep into the novels or the comics, that was just kind of where my perspective is.
Absolutely.
I feel like those who really follow the story might have been satisfied with that. But for me, there wasn't enough for me to be invested in that whole arc.
Yeah, and so what I'm looking forward to, or what I'm hoping happens, is this is obviously a trilogy, right? So there's gonna be a closing act, and normally in an isolated film we have the first act and then the second act, right? So in a trilogy, I'm playing the long game, and what I see happening with Phasma at this point is there's going to be a climax with her and Finn in the third movie, or episode 9, where she's scarred up and she's burned because of how things ended with her in this movie, and it's going to be a climactic battle when they meet for the third time, and that's usually the case in a trilogy. That's why I appreciated them using her more in this movie, but I did understand how that encounter was a little bit fleeting, because so what I think is happening is that they're on borrowed time. They're trying to disable this tracker before they run out of gas, and so they have to kind of force the encounter with Captain Phasma and make it as fleeting as it was. And so I think in the third movie of this trilogy, that's where the conclusion happens, and that's where it comes to head.
I like it that you said borrowed time, because I just feel like the extra runtime to include that story into this film is borrowed time. I feel like if they had spent more time in Rey's training with Luke. Look, I went into this movie like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Luke spent so much time training, even in A New Hope, with Obi-Wan and then with Yoda. There was progression. There was a level of training that he went through to become the Jedi that he is. And
I'm gonna have to disagree with that.
I know, but let me finish this thought. Rey shows up, and just for the little time that she has had to spend with Luke, you get a little bit of a scene where she like uses the lightsaber, like really cool, dazzling like moves, and she cuts the stone in half, and then all of a sudden, she's ready to go. You know, like I just wish there was more time. Take the time that they spent for Finn and Rose's storyline and give it to where you really need it most, is Rey's development as a Jedi.
So this is where a hardcore fan's perspective comes in. They actually spent the same time training. In Empire Strikes Back, he was actually with Yoda for just a few days. And when Leia was in trouble at Bespin, he was forced to cut their training off, and he left early. And Yoda was against it, but he left and he cut his training off. And when he came back to complete his training, Yoda was already on his deathbed, and he's like, "I told you, you know, you weren't gonna make it back in time." And so Luke's training was in fact the culmination of a couple of days, just like Rey's.
I get it, but he also had his training with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that was
also a couple of days as well. With
it
was a helmet, and it was the lightsaber training with that little ball that flies around, and it happened in such a short amount of time. I think 12 parsecs, but it's actually a measure of distance, I know. But that training happened in the time it took for them to go to Yavin 4. So
no.
They're training. No, I
know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But what I get from The New Hope and Empire Strikes Back is that I actually witness Luke progressing into his training, becoming a Jedi.
Yeah, but this is a different journey. I know, but
for this one is like Rey, she shows up and then she gets like a little meditation, and then that's it. Like she cuts a stone in half, and then she's ready to go take on Snoke and the dreaded red samurais, whoever they were, the guards.
No, I don't think that's what happened at all.
I just wish there was a little bit more time on that, because was what I was really excited about. I was like, I wanted to see that training happen. I wanted to see her progress, become this badass Jedi, and I just don't think there was enough.
Okay, so this is the problem that a lot of people fall into. They fall into this bubble, which comes with inherent constraints that make them want to see something, and if it's not what they want, then they judge the movie, or they judge that particular narrative under those constraints that it didn't abide by what they wanted. So
Yeah, but that's
okay. You
but
said
that's
your,
from a perspective.
You said your piece.
That's my perspective.
You said your piece.
where
Let me finish.
I'm the uninitiated.
Let me
okay?
finish.
I don't know much about the comics or the stories.
No.
I'm sitting here just wanting to be entertained.
No.
And
my argument has nothing to do with you being initiated or informed. This is my argument. You are in this bubble. You're citing Empire Strikes Back. You're citing A New Hope. You're citing the training montages that happened with Obi-Wan and Yoda. This is a different journey. This is a different guy. Luke Skywalker. He said in the movie he went there to die. He wasn't there. He wasn't the Luke Skywalker that we knew. He was a different character. So when you come to terms or you come to grips with who that person is, you're not gonna see him just happy-go-lucky start training a new Jedi who is as strong as the last Jedi that he started training, who burned down his friggin' Jedi Academy. So when you take into context everything that's happened to Luke from Return of the Jedi to Force Awakens, he's a hermit. He's isolated himself. He doesn't want to deal with the Force anymore. He's closed himself off from the Force. And when Rey comes to him for training, he's super hesitant. He doesn't want to do it anymore. That kind of raw power scares him, and it only at the very, very tail end of her training or her time there, because she had to go help the Resistance, did he say, okay, fine, I'll give you 2 lessons. And so that's what her training culminated to. I don't think I agree. I would have liked to see him do this whole Yoda training Luke training Rey montage of her getting stronger and stronger, but that's just not what the narrative was. And so I have to accept that that's who his character is now. And so combine that with the fact that Rey was communing with Kylo and Snoke was manipulating the images in their heads. He played the pieces in the chessboard to make her rush out of her training and seek out Kylo. And as soon as she got there, he revealed it. He's like, you guys weren't seeing any images of each other. I fed you these images. I made you come here yourself, and I put all these pieces together, and now you are here in my hands. And Kylo, he fed that image to Kylo that he was the Skywalker and she was nobody, and that kind of backfired on Snoke, and that's when Kylo took it upon himself to take out Snoke. And so
see, this is the problem that I have. Okay, so you are so quick to dismiss my perspective just because you're calling it in this bubble that we start to judge things. But I am going into this theater to be entertained. I'm going to this theater to watch a narrative that I will fully enjoy. But
exactly
what I'm saying is that they wasted so much time with the Finn and Rose story arc that it was so disinteresting for me that the best part about it that I was really looking forward to was that part, because there was so much hype going into the trailers, like all the trailers, the different types of trailers showing her training, showing her to becoming a bigger and greater Jedi, and like I just didn't get enough of it. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not. It's like watching Bloodsport or Kickboxer, and you see Van Damme's character like transform into a culmination where he's gonna go kick some ass. And then over here, it's just like, she shows up, she does a little meditation, she breaks the stone in half, and then that's it. Like, yes, it was like a couple days with Luke and Yoda. Yes, it was a couple days with Obi-Wan, but at least you saw that in a culmination with 2 movies before he actually goes off to face Vader. And then all of a sudden, she's ready to go face what's his name? Snoke.
So I wasn't dismissing your perspective at all. I was just saying, I was trying to explain it to the fact that, some people come into these things with expectations, and some people have to manage those expectations. And so when you see a narrative that you didn't expect, a narrative that you didn't want, then you have to come to grips with it and accept that that's the narrative.
I get your point there. I do accept the fact that my expectations weren't met. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so my expectations for this movie was big, epic, and we got bits and parts of that, but ultimately some of the gripes that I pointed out, it kind of brought it back down, And I mean, I was still very satisfied with the whole movie.
You just wanted a superpowered Grandmaster Jedi Luke.
Yeah, I
to
mean,
do
like,
things.
I mean, we just spent a bunch of times. We just spent a whole bunch of time like talking about some of the negative parts of the movie. We didn't really spend time talking about the best parts of the movie. And one of the biggest like holy shit moments of this movie was Leia. When she gets blasted out of the bridge and she's floating in space.
Yeah, I literally thought
and
that
my
she
hair,
was done.
Like, I am goosebumped right now just thinking about it.
Yeah, I have goosebumps too. So basically,
you can see that.
Basically, I came into this movie thinking that they didn't have the balls to kill off Leia because, you know, R.I.P. Carrie Fisher, but they had to find a way to write her out, and I was kind of pissed that they just took her out by some side character pilot at beside Kylo shooting the bridge and just flies out. And so I was kind of pissed off at that. I was just like, no, they did not just take out Carrie Fisher like that. And then, you know,
then that moment happened. It was just like, oh.
Yeah,
like,
she
stop
freaking
eating
pulled through.
Stop eating your nachos because this is an epic moment, and it was like an awakening. Like,
right.
We always kind of felt like the Force was always strong with her.
The Force is strong in this family.
But I had no idea that she could use it. It was
it
was amazing. I know there was like things in the comics and the canon that they explored that, but
there's a lot of people right now that would have never thought that they would have seen Leia use the Force. You know, she's not a Jedi. She's not a Force user. She chose her path to being the general of the Resistance, and that was her path. And to see that she could grasp the Force enough without any training to just be like, I'm gonna live, and then she's just gonna.
Such an awesome moment. She was just like, and then I don't know. It's hard to explain how amazing that moment was.
And so one of my other favorite things that happened was Luke Skywalker's story. Now, a lot of people are going to be very divisive about this issue because it shined a negative light on Luke's character. And I think I appreciate that more because he is a Skywalker. And he isn't the pristine image that everyone has attached to him. I appreciate that they gave him such a flawed and damaged character or damaged role to play in this narrative, being the one that kind of senses the dark side in Kylo or Ben, and then
I appreciate it too. Like he is carrying so much burden, and there's so much weight into the experiences that he's had because
he's had to redeem his father.
Yeah, and you know, and he couldn't get Kylo on the right side, or like what I think what everyone is trying to understand or is arguing about is that Luke is not this holier than thou like legendary character. He is a flawed human being or a flawed Skywalker.
He comes from a flawed family.
Flawed family with just so much story, so much darkness inside it.
And the dark side of Luke was explored a lot in The Return of the Jedi when it was supposed to be the Revenge of the Jedi originally, the first draft. And, you know, he in the original draft of the script, he had the black robes and everything. Everybody thought he went to the dark side. But essentially, his family just battles with the light and the dark pretty much constantly. And so to see him kind of battling the dark side in his student versus the dark side in him that's willing to kill a student. And I thought that was an incredible narrative. Like, yeah, everybody kind of like was skewing the perspectives, right? From Ben's perspective, Luke was trying to kill him, and from Luke's perspective, he wanted to, but he couldn't. And Ben saw him above him, and he was like, and Luke was like, no, that's not. This isn't what it looks like.
Any way you look at it, if you wake up and your teacher is like standing above you with a weapon, I would probably react the same way.
Yeah, and it's understandable.
But I thought it was beautiful the way his story was told and the way it ended, and
the duality of it.
I mean, come on, at the end. I mean, I will complain about the runtime where like I wish there was some popcorn. I had some popcorn in my hand, but when it got to that point towards the end with Luke showing up at the end, it was just like fucking Super Saiyan time or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Totally agreed. That moment was pretty
Words
spectacular.
cannot explain what I was going through. It was just so palpable. The action, the tension, like my blood was just, I was ready to stand up, because when I'm excited, I just want to stand up. Like, I don't want to be rude to the person behind me, but like that whole scene, it just captivated everything about Star Wars. The message of hope, the imagination, the wonder, everything that the franchise has stood for. And that epic scene at the end was just like, oh man.
And it was amplified even further when we found out it was an actual force projection.
Yes.
And Luke's just sitting there on Octu just being like, yep, you're just fighting some image of me.
Yeah, and then that's why it was just so beautifully done. That part of his story was just beautifully done. The way he did this last act of heroism or
Yeah, so that they could escape.
So that they had time to escape, and he becomes a Force ghost.
I had my suspicions too,
know?
because it was like, does his X-wing still work? Because it's kind of submerged in the water.
I know.
How does he get off the planet? But yeah, it just turned out he was just a force projection. It also brings to question whether or not that's how Obi-Wan died, because he did disappear after getting slashed. I don't know if he disappeared after getting slashed by Darth Vader, or if he disappeared during or before the slash actually hit him. And this force projection with Luke is kind of like raising all these new questions about whether or not Obi-Wan really did show up to fight Anakin, or if he did the same, or if Luke was kind of like, oh, I know what he did, and he's going to do the same thing with Kylo.
Yeah.
So, you know, all these new questions, and on top of questions that have been answered, you know, Rey's parents weren't revealed.
I actually like the idea that Rey came from nowhere and that she's just been especially touched by the Force, versus
I'd be
coming
okay
up
with
with
it.
theories of her being a Skywalker or Obi-Wan or some kind of family lineage.
I'd be okay with her being a nobody. I just don't think she is. I just don't think that. Well, first of all, in some interviews, the previous director of Episode 9 said that the answer to that question would be deeply and profoundly satisfying. And I don't think her being the daughter of junk traders who sold her off for alcohol money is deeply and profoundly satisfying.
Right.
But let us know what you guys thought of the Star Wars Last Jedi. This is a very divisive...
Yeah, I mean, it's a very opinionated film. There's been lots of reviews. It's been contradicted, both sides.
Very mixed on Rotten Tomatoes.
And, well, before we sign off, what would you give it on a scale of 10?
Well, for me, it ranks up there with Empire Strikes Back. And Empire Strikes Back is my most favorite Star Wars film, which means it gets a 9 at least, because Empire Strikes Back is a 10.
Okay, so for me, it's going to be Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then I would say The Last Jedi. And I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I think my gripes were enough for me to bring it down a couple notches.
All right, well, there you have it. You have Flip's perspective. You have my perspective on top of my perspective on my channel. But this was good. I got a lot to,
Digest.
Yeah.
And talk about.
I had some time. I had more time to kind of expound upon my thoughts.
But wholeheartedly, the movie is really, really worth it to go see. Go watch it if you haven't seen it yet.
And if you're new to us, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more episodes from us. Next week, the subject matter is all up in the air. We don't know yet because our shows are on hiatus. So we'll decide and we'll post that up next Sunday. So as always, we'll let you know if a show is worth your Sunday. Bye.